They thought rejecting her in front of 200 wolves would break her. They thought a virgin Omega who couldn't share was worthless. They thought she would crawl, beg, disappear into nothing. But they were dead wrong. The twin Alpha Kings weren't searching for perfection. They weren't looking for beauty or breeding or bloodlines written in gold. They were hunting for her. And when they found her dying in a blizzard covered in their blood and her own determination, they realized something the Silver Moon Pack had been too blind to see. Lyra Ashwood wasn't broken. She was becoming. This is her story. The Great Hall of the Silver Moon Pack reeked of wet fur and anticipation. 200 wolves packed the ancient stone chamber, their breath misting in the cold autumn air. Torches flickered against walls that had witnessed 1,000 ceremonies, but none quite like this. Lyra Ashwood knelt in the center of the hall. Mud caked her knees. Her simple cotton dress, already threadbare, had torn at the shoulder during the forced march from the Omega quarters. She kept her eyes down. Always down. 23 years of survival had taught her that much. Never look an alpha in the eye, never speak unless spoken to. Never ever believe you deserve more than the scraps they throw you. Alpha Thorn, Blackmaw, circled her like a predator, sizing up wounded prey. 6'5" of pure dominance, coiled muscle and cruel eyes the color of burnt amber. His ceremonial cloak swept the floor. The silver clasp at his throat caught the torchlight. The rejection ceremony had been announced 3 days ago. Lyra had known it was coming. She'd felt it in the way the other Omegas stopped speaking when she entered the kitchens. Seen it in how the warriors wouldn't meet her gaze. Tasted it in the air like copper. Thorn stopped directly in front of her. His boots were polished black leather. Expensive. The kind of expense that came from controlling the largest silver mine in the Northern Territories. Look at me. The command cracked through the hall. Lyra's wolf whimpered inside her, that buried sleeping thing that had never once answered her call. Slowly she raised her eyes. Thorn's face was all sharp angles and sharper intent. Handsome if you liked your beauty cut from cruelty. His mate Luna Seraphine stood 3 paces behind him. Blonde, elegant, draped in furs that cost more than Lyra would see in 10 lifetimes. Seraphine smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Lyra Ashwood, Thorn's voice carried to every corner of the hall. You have lived among the Silver Moon Pack for 23 years. You have been clothed, fed, sheltered. Lyra said nothing. Her hands trembled in her lap. She curled her fingers into fist nails, biting into her palms. The pain helped. It always helped. In return, the pack expected only one thing, that you would shift, that you would contribute, that you would prove yourself worthy of the name Omega. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Lyra caught fragments. Can't even shift. Waste of resources. Should have been culled years ago. She'd heard it all before. The words rolled off her like rain off stone. What cut deeper was the silence from the few who'd shown her kindness. The elderly healer who'd taught her about herbs. The kitchen Omega who'd saved her extra bread. The beta warrior who'd once smiled at her. They all looked away now. Thorn gestured broadly. 23 years and you remain locked in human form. No shift, no wolf, no value. He paused for effect. Tell me, Lyra, why should Silver Moon continue to feed a mouth that gives nothing back? The question hung in the cold air. Lyra opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say? That she'd tried to shift every night for 15 years. That she'd begged the moon goddess until her throat was raw. That she'd cut herself just to see if pain would trigger the change. That her father had died believing she was broken. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I work in the kitchens. I help with human work. Thorn cut her off. Any human could peel potatoes. I'm asking what you provide as a wolf. Silence. Luna Seraphine glided forward, her movements liquid grace. She stopped beside her mate, tilted her head as if examining something mildly distasteful. Perhaps she's barren, Seraphine suggested, her voice honeyed poison. Perhaps the goddess knew this one's womb was as useless as her wolf. The hall erupted in harsh laughter. Heat flooded Lyra's face. She dropped her gaze back to the floor, counted the cracks in the stone, 37 from her left knee to the edge of Thorn's boot. She'd counted them before, during Omega lessons, during punishments, during the long nights when sleep wouldn't come. Stand up, she stood. Her legs shook. She locked her knees, forced them steady. Thorn stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath, the expensive cologne, the underlying scent of his alpha power. It pressed against her like a physical weight. I, Alpha Thorn Blackmaw, reject you, Lyra Ashwood, from the Silver Moon Pack. The words hit like a fist to the gut. Lyra's breath caught, rejected. The worst thing that could happen to a wolf, worse than death. Cast out from the pack meant cast out from protection, from territory, from the bond that connected every wolf to something greater than themselves. Even a bond she'd barely felt would be severed. Furthermore, Thorn raised his voice. I sentence you to exile in the frozen deadlands. You will be escorted to the northern border and released. Your survival is your own concern. Gasps echoed through the hall. The Deadlands, 3,000 square miles of unforgiving wilderness between pack territories. No shelter, no prey, and with winter coming, no chance. It was a death sentence dressed up as mercy. My Alpha, one of the elders stepped forward, ancient grizzled, his voice rough with age. The Deadlands in winter is exactly what she deserves. Seraphine's interruption was silk wrapped around steel. Or would you prefer we waste more resources on her? The elder's mouth snapped shut. Thorn turned back to Lyra. Do you have anything to say? She should beg, plead, throw herself at his feet and promise to do better. Be better. Try harder. That's what they expected. What they wanted. But Lyra looked at Thorn's face, at the cruel satisfaction in his eyes, and something inside her went very still. Her father had been the pack healer, a gentle man who'd smelled like sage and cedar and old books. He'd died when she was 8 from a wound that festered because he'd given all his medicine to others first. Before he'd closed his eyes for the last time, he'd gripped her hand. You're not broken, little moon, he'd whispered. You're just sleeping. One day you'll wake up. She'd never forgotten. Lyra lifted her chin, met Thorn's gaze dead on. No, she said clearly. I have nothing to say to you. The slap came so fast she didn't see it. Seraphine's hand cracked across her face, snapping her head to the side. The copper taste of blood filled her mouth. Her cheek throbbed. You will address your betters with respect, Seraphine hissed. Lyra turned back slowly. Her cheek blazed. A thin line of blood trickled from her split lip. She didn't wipe it away. Then I have nothing to say to my betters either. For one heartbeat, shock rippled across Seraphine's perfect face. Then rage, hot and vicious, flooded in. She raised her hand again. Enough! Thorn caught his mate's wrist. She's not worth it. He jerked his head at the warriors flanking the doors. Take her to the border. Strip her of anything pack-marked. Leave her with the clothes on her back. 2 betas moved forward. Their faces were carefully blank. One of them, Marcus, had taught her to fish when she was 10. The other, Claire, had once let her sleep in the storage room during a particularly bad winter. Neither looked at her as they gripped her arms. The crowd parted as they dragged her toward the doors. Lyra didn't resist. She walked between them, head high, despite the tears burning behind her eyes. She wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of them. They'd already taken everything else. They wouldn't get her tears. As they passed through the ornate doorway, Lyra caught one last glimpse of the great hall. 200 wolves. 200 witnesses to her humiliation. Not one spoke in her defense. The heavy doors slammed shut behind her. The border of Silver Moon territory was marked by ancient standing stones, their surfaces carved with warnings in the old tongue. Beyond them stretched the Deadlands. Mile after mile of rocky terrain, dense forest, and this time of year, the promise of blizzards that could bury a wolf in minutes. Marcus and Claire released her at the stone line. Claire at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Your cloak, Marcus said gruffly. He held out his hand. The cloak was rough wool, patched a dozen times, but it bore the Silver Moon crest embroidered at the collar. Pack property. Lyra unpinned it. The cold bit immediately through her thin dress. October in the north was unforgiving. In another week, the first snows would come. She handed the cloak over without a word. Marcus pulled a knife from his belt. For one wild second, Lyra thought he might actually kill her. End it quick instead of leaving her to freeze. But he just grabbed her wrist and cut the leather bracelet she wore. Another pack marker. Boots, Claire whispered. They have the crest on the sole. Lyra unlaced them slowly. The ground was already frost-hard against her bare feet. She'd walked these forests barefoot as a child, but that was summer. This was different. She handed over the boots. Marcus and Claire stood there, clearly waiting for her to beg, to ask for mercy for them to smuggle her food for something. Lyra turned away and walked across the border. Behind her, she heard Claire's soft sob, then footsteps retreating, the sound of them leaving. She was alone. The forest swallowed her within minutes. Oak and pine towered overhead, their branches creating a canopy that blocked most of the fading daylight. The temperature dropped as the sun sank toward the horizon. Lyra's breath misted. Her feet were already going numb. She had maybe 2 hours before dark, maybe 3 before the temperature killed her. But her father hadn't just taught her about wolves and the moon goddess. He'd taught her about survival. Lyra's eyes scanned the forest floor. There, dry moss clinging to a fallen log. She gathered handfuls, stuffing them into the torn shoulder of her dress. Insulation. Not much, but something. A stream cut through the ravine to her left. She could hear the gurgle of water over stone. Water meant possible fish. It also meant deer trails. Deer trails meant shelter spots, places where the land bent to create natural windbreaks. She followed the sound. The stream was narrow, fast-flowing, ice-cold. Lyra knelt and drank anyway. The water numbed her throat going down. She splashed some on her face, washing away the dried blood from Seraphine's slap. Her reflection wavered in the current. Pale face, dark circles under gray eyes that had never shifted to wolf gold, hair the color of wheat tangled and dirty. She looked exactly like what she was. Unwanted. Lyra stood, wobbled. Her feet were definitely going numb. She needed fire, shelter. Food could wait. Not freezing to death, couldn't. The forest floor yielded kindling, small dry twigs that snapped cleanly. She gathered them methodically, her fingers clumsy with cold. Her father had shown her how to start a fire with friction, how to find the right wood, how to coax a spark into flame. But her fingers were too cold. The wood too damp from morning frost. The sun touched the horizon, orange and red bleeding across the sky. Beautiful and deadly. Lyra's jaw clenched. She wouldn't die here, not like this. Not because Thorn Blackmaw decided she wasn't worth the scraps. She tried again and again. Her palms blistered. The friction stick slipped. No smoke, no spark, nothing. Darkness fell like a curtain. The temperature plummeted. Lyra's whole body shook now. Her teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue. The coppery taste of blood again. She wrapped her arms around herself, curled into the smallest ball possible at the base of a massive oak. The moss insulation helped. Barely. Above, stars emerged, thousands of them sharp and cold and utterly indifferent. The moon rose 3/4 full, her light silver on the frost-tipped leaves. Please, Lyra whispered to that distant goddess. If you're there, if you've ever cared, please. The moon didn't answer. Lyra closed her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her. That was dangerous. Sleep in this cold meant not waking up. She forced her eyes open, counted stars, named them with the names her father had taught her. The hunter, the maiden, the crown. Her eyelids grew heavy. She jerked awake. How long had she been out? Minutes, hours. A wolf howled in the distance. Then another. A pack. Hunting. Lyra's heart hammered. She wasn't in pack territory anymore. Rogue wolves ran the deadlands. Dangerous, desperate creatures with no bonds and no mercy. The howls came closer. She tried to stand. Her legs wouldn't cooperate. Too cold, too stiff. Footsteps, paws on frozen ground. Coming fast. This was it then. Not freezing. Being torn apart. Ironic, really. Rejected by wolves, killed by wolves. The underbrush exploded. A massive gray wolf burst through, eyes wild foam flecking its muzzle. Rogue. Definitely rogue. It saw her and snarled. Lyra couldn't even scream. Her voice was frozen. The wolf gathered itself to lunge. An arrow sprouted from its shoulder. The creature yelped, twisted, ran, crashing back into the forest. Gone. Lyra stared at where it had been. Her brain felt sluggish, unable to process. Someone had shot that wolf. Someone was here. More footsteps. Human. No, not quite. The weight was wrong. Too heavy. A man stepped into view. No, not a man. A shifter. She could tell by the way he moved, that fluid grace that came from living in two forms. He was tall, broad-shouldered. His clothes were dark, practical. A bow slung across his back. He crouched in front of her. His face was shadowed, but his eyes caught the moonlight. Pale blue, like ice over deep water. Can you walk? His voice was rough. Northern accent, not Silver Moon. Lyra tried to answer. Her jaw wouldn't work. He swore softly, pulled off his cloak, and wrapped it around her. The warmth was immediate, shocking. She gasped. My camp is close, he said. I'm going to carry you. Before she could respond, he scooped her up. One arm under her knees, one behind her shoulders. She weighed nothing to him. He stood and started walking, each step measured. Careful, like he carried something precious instead of a rejected Omega who couldn't even shift. Lyra's head lolled against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady, strong. The scent of him wrapped around her. Cedar and winter air and something else. Something wild. something that made her sleeping wolf stir, just the tiniest bit. Her eyes drifted closed. She felt him move faster, heard the crackle of a fire. Warmth, blessed warmth. He laid her on something soft. Furs, a bedroll. He wrapped her in more warmth, then moved away. Lyra forced her eyes open. They were in a cave. Small, shallow, but dry. A fire burned near the entrance, reflecting off the stone walls. The man was building it higher, feeding it larger branches. He turned. The firelight caught his face fully. Lyra's breath stopped. He was beautiful. Not pretty, not soft, but carved from something primal and powerful. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw shadowed with stubble, hair the color of moonlight on snow pulled back at his nape, and those eyes, pale blue shifting to something brighter, almost white. Alpha eyes. He studied her in return. His gaze swept over her face, her torn dress, her bare feet. Something dangerous flickered across his expression. Who did this to you? The question was quiet, lethal. Lyra's teeth still chattered. Silver Moon Pack. His eyes went flat. Name. Lyra Ashwood. No. His voice was infinitely patient. The name of whoever hurt you. She should lie. Protect the pack. That was instinct even after everything. But when she looked at this stranger who'd saved her life, who'd given her his cloak and his fire, and asked nothing, the truth spilled out. Alpha Thorn Blackmaw rejected me. Luna Seraphine sentenced me to exile. The temperature in the cave dropped 10 degrees, not from cold, from the fury that rolled off him in waves. Thorn, he repeated, each syllable sharp as broken glass. Then he stood in one fluid motion, walked to the cave entrance, stared out at the night forest. Lyra watched him. Her body was warming now, painfully. Her feet and fingers burned as circulation returned. She bit her lip to keep from whimpering. There's water in the skin by the fire, he said without turning. And dried meat. Eat, drink, rest. Who are you? He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Kale. Just a name, nothing else. Lyra wanted to ask more. What was an alpha doing alone in the Deadlands? Why had he helped her? What did he want? But exhaustion pulled at her like a riptide. Her eyes closed. Sleep took her. She woke to daylight and the smell of cooking meat. Lyra sat up too fast. The cave spun. She pressed a hand to her head, waiting for the world to steady. The fire still burned. Kale crouched beside it, turning something on a makeshift spit. Rabbit by the look of it. Her stomach growled loudly. He glanced at her. You slept 14 hours. 14 hours. The sun was high. Late morning then, day one. Thank you, she said. Her voice was hoarse. For saving me. He said nothing, just pulled the rabbit off the fire, divided it in half, and handed her a portion on a flat piece of bark. Lyra ate. She tried to be delicate, but hunger won. She tore into the meat grease running down her chin. It was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Kale watched her, not staring, just observing, like he was memorizing something. When she finished, he handed her the water skin. She drank deeply. Your feet need treatment, he said. They're frostbitten. Lyra looked down. Her feet were red, swollen, parts of them white. She hadn't even felt the pain through everything else. I don't have money, she said quietly, or anything to trade. I'm not asking for payment. He pulled a pack toward him, opened it. Inside were medical supplies, bandages, salves, herbs, more than any random traveler would carry. Lyra's mind sharpened. You're a healer. No, I just know how to keep people alive. He gestured to her feet. May I? She nodded. Kale moved closer, knelt, took her right foot in his hands. The moment his skin touched hers, lightning shot up her leg. Lyra gasped, jerked back. Kale froze. His eyes snapped to hers. For 3 heartbeats, neither moved. That hadn't been pain. It hadn't been cold. It had been something else entirely. Something that made her sleeping wolf raise its head, made her blood sing, made every nerve ending light up like she'd touched the sun. Kale's jaw clenched. Slowly he released her foot. Did you feel that? Lyra whispered. He stood abruptly, walked to the cave entrance, put 20 feet between them. It's nothing, he said. His voice was rough. Static from the furs. It wasn't static. They both knew it. Lyra stared at his back, at the way his shoulders were rigid with tension, at how his hands curled into fists at his sides. What are you doing out here? She asked instead. Hunting. Alone in the Deadlands. I prefer it. The conversation was going nowhere. Lyra tried a different approach. Where's your pack? I don't have one. Everyone has a pack. Not everyone. He turned. Those ice blue eyes pinned her. Some of us choose solitude over betrayal. The words hung heavy. Lyra understood them too well. I need to treat your feet, Kale said. If you'll let me. She hesitated. That spark, that electricity? What if it happened again, but her feet were definitely frostbitten? Without treatment, she could lose toes. Or worse. Okay, she agreed. He moved slowly this time, giving her warning. He knelt again, reached for her right foot. This time, Lyra braced herself, his hands wrapped around her ankle. Large, warm, calloused. The spark hit again. Stronger. Lyra's back arched. A small sound escaped her throat. Kale's grip tightened fractionally. His breathing changed. Faster, rougher. But he didn't let go. He worked methodically. Examined each toe, applied salve that stung but numbed, wrapped bandages with practiced efficiency, all while that electricity hummed between them, building, growing. When he finished her right foot and reached for the left, his hand was shaking. Who are you? Lyra asked softly. No one important. Liar. His eyes flicked to hers. Something dangerous glinted there. Careful, Omega. I'm not Pack anymore. I don't have to be careful. A sound rumbled from his chest, almost like a growl. You should be more careful now than ever. Why? He finished wrapping her left foot, but he didn't release her. His thumb traced a small circle on her ankle right over the pulse point. Lyra's breath caught. Because you're in the Deadlands, Kale said quietly, where alphas don't follow pack law, where no one would hear you scream. It should have terrified her. Instead, something in his voice told her he'd never hurt her, would kill anyone who tried. But you saved me, she pointed out. I did. So what does that make you foolish? He stood, went back to the cave entrance, put distance between them again. Lyra pulled the furs closer. Her feet felt better already. The salve was good, professional quality. You're not just a traveler. No. Then what? Silence. Then from outside the cave, a voice called. Male, strong. Kale, we've got movement on the ridge. Rogues, maybe 20. Kale tensed. Stay here, he ordered Lyra. Then louder, I'm coming. He stepped out of the cave. Lyra waited 10 seconds, then hobbled to the entrance, careful on her bandaged feet. The cave opened onto a rocky outcrop. Below in a small clearing, she saw what Kyle had been hiding. A camp. Not a small traveler's camp. A military operation, 30 tents. Weapons stacked in neat rows, wolves in formation, all wearing black and silver. Royal colors. Lyra's heart stopped. The man who'd called was identical to Kyle. Same height, same build, same white blonde hair. Twin. He turned, saw her. His eyes widened. Those eyes, one ice blue, the other a warmer gold hazel. Both brothers stared at her. She stared back. And she knew with a certainty that went bone deep. These weren't random alphas. These were the twin alpha kings. Kale Stormborn and Cain Stormborn. Rulers of the northern and southern kingdoms. The most powerful wolves alive. And she just spent the night alone in a cave with one of them. Cain Stormborn moved like violence, looking for a target. He crossed the distance between the clearing and the cave in seconds, taking the rocky slope in 3 leaps that should have been impossible. He landed in front of Lyra. Close. Too close. Where Kael's scent had been winter and Cedar Cain's was smoke and spice. Heat to his brother's ice. His eyes locked on her bandaged feet, traveled up her torn dress, stopped at the fading bruise on her cheek. His growl shook the cave walls. Who touched you? Lyra took a step back, hit stone. Nowhere to go. Cain. Kale appeared beside his brother. Back off, you're scaring her. She's hurt. Someone hit her. I can smell blood. Cain's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. I'll kill them slowly. Not if I do it first. Kale's tone was flat, factual. Lyra looked between them. These weren't just alphas. These were apex predators. And they were both staring at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Her wolf stirred again, stronger this time, reaching for them. No, that was impossible. She didn't have a wolf. Not really. Just a broken thing that had never answered. I'm fine, she managed. Kale helped me. I'm grateful. Cain's eyes narrowed. He leaned closer, inhaled. His entire body went rigid. Kale, he said carefully. Do you smell that? Kale's jaw clenched. Yes. What is she, Omega, rejected from Silver Moon Pack? That's not what I'm asking. Cain's hand lifted, stopped an inch from Lyra's face. May I? She didn't know what he was asking permission for, but she nodded. Cain's fingers brushed her cheek, the unmarked side. gentle, reverent. Lightning exploded through her. Lyra cried out. Her legs buckled. Both brothers caught her. Cale on her left, Cain on her right, holding her between them. The electricity tripled, quadrupled. It raced through her blood like wildfire. Her sleeping wolf didn't just stir, it surged. For the first time in 23 years, Lyra felt her wolf, really felt it. Not absent, not broken, awake. Impossible, Cale breathed. Cain's hands tightened on her waist. Brother, tell me you feel this. I feel it. Well, what does it mean? Cale's eye met his twin's over Lyra's head. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Cale looked down at her. His expression was stunned, awed, terrified. It means, he said slowly, that she's our mate. Both of ours. The world tilted. Mate. The word echoed in Lyra's skull. No, that was impossible. One Omega couldn't have two mates. It didn't work that way. The moon goddess paired wolves 1-to-1. Twin alphas shared territory, shared power, but they didn't share. She's going into shock, Cain said sharply. Lyra, look at me. She forced her eyes to focus. Cain's face filled her vision. Concern etched in every line. Breathe, he ordered. In, out. With me. He breathed slowly, deliberately. Lyra matched him. In, out. In, out. The dizziness receded. Good, Cain murmured. That's good. Cale released her carefully, stepped back, put space between them. The loss of contact felt like losing warmth. We need to explain, Cale said. But not here. The rogues, Vayam. An arrow whistled past his head, embedded in the stone behind him. All three of them dropped. More arrows, dozens, raining down from the ridge above. Attack! Someone shouted from the camp below. Chaos erupted. Cain shifted instantly, bones cracking, fur sprouting. In 3 seconds, a massive wolf stood where the man had been. His fur was silver white, shot through with threads of gold. His eyes burned. He grabbed Lyra's dress in his teeth, dragged her deeper into the cave. Cale stayed human, drew a sword from seemingly nowhere. Stay with her, he ordered his brother. Then he was gone, running toward the battle. Cain shifted back, grabbed Lyra's shoulders. Can you fight? I can't shift, she said automatically. That's not what I asked. Lyra thought of her father, the knife he'd taught her to use. The pressure points he'd shown her when drunken wolves got too handsy in the kitchens. I can fight, she said. Cain smiled. It was feral. Good. He handed her a dagger from his belt. The blade was silver. Deadly. Stay behind me, he ordered. If anyone gets past me, you run. Understand? She nodded. They moved to the cave entrance. Below, the battle raged. The twins' warriors fought with brutal efficiency. But the rogues outnumbered them 2-to-1. Lyra saw Cale in the thick of it. His sword flashed. Rogues fell. He moved like death itself. Cain tensed beside her. I have to join them. Go. He hesitated. Actually, hesitated. This Alphaking who'd probably never hesitated in his life. You'll be safe here. I'll come back for you. Then he shifted again. Leaped from the cave, landed in the middle of 3 rogues and tore into them with savage grace. Lyra gripped the dagger, watched the battle, her heart hammered, movement to her left. She spun. A rogue had scaled the cliff face. Now it crouched at the cave entrance. Scarred, mangy. Its eyes were wild. It snarled. Lyra raised the dagger. Her hand shook. The rogue lunged. She dove sideways, slashed blindly, felt the blade connect. The wolf yelped, twisted. Lyra scrambled backward. Her bandaged feet slipped on stone. The rogue recovered, gathered itself for another attack. Lyra's wolf surged inside her. Not shifting, she still couldn't shift, but it lent her strength. Speed. The rogue lunged again. This time Lyra didn't dodge. She dropped low, drove the dagger up. The blade sank into the rogue's chest, between the ribs, the way her father had taught her. The wolf's eyes went wide. It fell. Lyra stood there, shaking, covered in blood that wasn't hers. She'd just killed. Below, the battle ended. The rogues that weren't dead fled into the forest. Cain found her 30 seconds later, shifted back to human, saw the dead rogue, saw the blood on her hands. You fought, he said. I told you I could. Something blazed in his eyes, pride, possession, heat. Then Cale was there too, uninjured, his sword dripping. Both brothers looked at her, at the wolf she'd killed, at the dagger still clutched in her white-knuckled grip. We need to talk, Cale said. All of us. Cain nodded. The camp, now. They led her down the slope. Warriors stared, whispered. Lyra ignored them. The command tent was large. Maps covered one table, weapons another. Kale gestured to a chair. Lyra sat. Both brothers remained standing, pacing, like caged wolves. Tell us everything, Kale said. From the beginning. So she did. The rejection, Seraphine's slap, the exile, 4 days in the Deadlands. Everything except the part where their touch made her feel alive for the first time ever. They knew that part already. When she finished, Kane looked ready to murder someone. Thorn Blackmaw, I know him, ambitious, cruel. He'll answer for this, Kale added quietly. No, Lyra's voice was firm. I don't want revenge. I just want to survive. Both alphas stared at her. You don't understand what you are, Kale said finally. What you are to us. Then explain. Kane and Kale exchanged glances. Some silent conversation. Then Kale sat across from her. Kane remained standing, close enough to touch. Twin alphas are rare, Kale began. We're born maybe once every 1,000 years. We share power, territory, everything, including, Kane continued, a mate. When twin alphas are born, the moon goddess creates one omega who can bond with both. A perfect balance. Lyra's mouth went dry. You think I'm... We don't think, Kale interrupted gently. We know. The moment I touched you, I felt the mate bond. When Kane touched you, it confirmed it. But I can't shift. I'm broken. You're not broken. Kane crouched in front of her, took her hands. The electricity sparked, but she didn't pull away this time. Your wolf is there. We felt it. It's just sleeping. Why? We don't know yet, Kale admitted, but we'll figure it out. Together. Lyra looked at their faces, saw honesty, saw certainty, saw something that looked like hope. What happens now, she whispered. Now, Kane said, you come with us to the northern citadel. We keep you safe. We figure out why your wolf won't wake. And when it does, his smile was pure predator. When it does, we'll claim you properly. Heat flooded Lyra's cheeks. Kale stood. We'll give you time. This is overwhelming. But Lyra understand one thing. She looked up at him. You're not alone anymore. You're not packless. You're ours, and we protect what's ours. The words should have felt like chains. Instead, they felt like freedom. For the first time since the rejection, Lyra smiled. Okay, she said. I'll come with you. Kane grinned, and Kale's expression softened. Neither noticed the figure watching from outside the tent. Old, bent, wearing the robes of a council elder. Elder Corvus, Ashenblade, smiled coldly, then melted back into the shadows. He had a message to send to a certain highborn female who'd been promised a crown. The Omega was here, and Phase 1 was about to begin. The northern citadel rose from the mountains like a crown of stone and ice. Lyra saw it from the valley below, perched on a cliff face that should have been impossible to build on. Towers spiraled toward the sky. Walls thick enough to withstand sieges gleamed in the afternoon sun. Banners snapped in the wind, black and silver, bearing the twin wolf crest. They'd arrived at dusk after pushing hard for the final stretch. Kane had insisted they reach the citadel before nightfall. Something about increased rogue activity. Lyra had spent the journey trying not to stare at them, at the way they moved, at the easy command they held over their warriors, at how they kept glancing at her like they couldn't quite believe she was real. The mate bond hummed between all three of them, a golden thread she could feel but not see. Every time one of the twins came near, her skin tingled. Her sleeping wolf reached. It was maddening, wonderful, terrifying. Kane rode on her left, Kale on her right, close enough that she felt their presence like warmth against her skin. They'd given her a horse, a gentle mare with kind eyes. They'd given her clothes that fit, warm boots lined with fur, food that wasn't scraps, and something she'd never had before. Respect. The warriors treated her like she belonged, like her presence mattered. When she'd offered to help the camp healer with an injured soldier on the second day of travel, they'd let her. When her stitching had saved the man's arm, they'd thanked her. No one had ever thanked her before. They crossed a bridge that spanned a gorge so deep Lyra couldn't see the bottom. The gates opened as they approached, massive things of reinforced oak and iron. The courtyard beyond was organized chaos. Warriors training, servants moving with purpose, children playing near a fountain. Life, community, everything Silvermoon had been, but better, cleaner, kinder. A woman approached as they dismounted. She was older, maybe 60, with silver hair braided at her crown and eyes that saw too much. Her dress was simple but well made. A healer's bag hung from her shoulder. My kings, she bowed, not subservient, respectful. Welcome home. Miriam, Kale's voice warmed. Good to see you. This is Lyra Ashwood. She'll be staying with us. Miriam's gaze swept over Lyra, professional, assessing. Then her eyes widened fractionally. I see, she said carefully. Welcome, child. I'm Miriam Frost, head healer of the Citadel. Lyra bowed. Thank you for having me. Miriam, Kane stepped closer. His voice dropped. Lyra needs examining. She was exiled in the Deadlands and frostbite, possible internal injuries from abuse. The healer's expression hardened. Bring her to my chambers, now. Within minutes, Lyra found herself in a warm, herb-scented room. Miriam worked with brisk efficiency, checking her feet, her ribs, the fading bruise on her cheek. You've had healer training, Miriam observed. My father taught me before he died. He taught you well. These bandages were expertly applied. She glanced at Kale, who'd insisted on staying. Kane had gone to address the warriors. Your work? Yes. Something passed between the healer and the king. Understanding, maybe approval. Your feet will heal completely, Miriam told Lyra. But you need rest, good food, time. She hesitated. There's something else. Lyra tensed. What? Your wolf, it's there, I can sense it, but it's... Miriam frowned. Suppressed, locked behind something. Can you unlock it? I don't know, I've never seen anything like this. The healer looked at Kale. She'll need examining by the council healer. Elder Corvus has studied ancient wolf magic. He might know. Kale's jaw tightened. I'll arrange it. After the examination, they showed Lyra to her room. It was larger than any space she'd ever had. A real bed with thick blankets, a window overlooking the mountains, a washroom with a tub. The servants will bring hot water, Kane said. He stood in the doorway, clearly reluctant to leave. And dinner. Anything you need, just ask. This is too much, Lyra whispered. No. Kale appeared behind his brother. This is what you deserve. What you should have always had. They left her alone. Lyra sat on the bed, ran her hands over the soft blankets, tried to process that this was real, that she was here, that two Alpha Kings had claimed her as their mate. Except they hadn't. Not really, not fully, because her wolf was still sleeping, and until it woke, the bond was incomplete. The next 3 days passed in a careful dance. Lyra worked in the healing chambers alongside Miriam. The old woman was demanding but fair. She taught Lyra things her father never had, advanced stitching techniques, how to set complex breaks, which herbs worked for pain and which for infection. You have a gift, Miriam said on the third evening. They were preparing tinctures for the coming winter. Your hands are steady. Your mind is quick. You'd make an excellent healer. Lyra looked up from grinding yarrow. Really, woman? Would I say it if I didn't mean it? The words settled into her chest. Warm. Real. The warriors started calling her Lady Lyra. At first she'd corrected them. Then Kane had pulled her aside. Let them, he'd said. You're our mate. That makes you their future queen. They're showing respect. Queen, the word felt foreign, impossible. But the twins treated her like she already wore a crown. Kale brought her books from the library, ancient texts about wolves and magic. They'd sit in his study while he worked through kingdom business, and she read by the fire. Kane taught her to defend herself properly. Not just knife work, hand-to-hand combat. Pressure points. How to use an opponent's size against them. You're fast, he'd said after she'd successfully flipped him on the second day. Faster than you think. Your wolf is lending you strength even locked away. Both of them were patient, careful. They never pushed for more than she was ready to give. But the tension built anyway. Every accidental touch was lightning. Every shared glance was heat. Every moment alone together crackled with possibility. And through it all, the mate bond strengthened, that golden thread growing thicker, brighter. On the third night, Lyra woke gasping from a dream. Her skin was too hot. Her heart raced. In the dream, both twins had been touching her, kissing her, claiming her. She pressed her hands to her flushed cheeks, tried to slow her breathing. A knock at the door made her jump. Lyra, Kale's voice, concerned. Are you all right? He felt it. Through the bond, her distress, her need. I'm fine, she called. Her voice came out breathless. Silence. Then, can I come in? She should say no, should maintain boundaries, should yes. The door opened. Kale stood there in sleep clothes, his white blonde hair loose around his shoulders, those ice blue eyes dark with concern and something else. You're burning up, he said. Crossed to her in 3 strides. His hand touched her forehead. Lyra, this isn't normal heat. This is, I know what it is. She pulled away from his touch. The electricity made her gasp. Miriam warned me. She said my heat would come sooner because of the mate bond. How soon? 3 to 4 days, maybe less. Kale's hands clenched into fists. We need to prepare. I'm not ready. I know, but your body doesn't care if you're ready. His voice was gentle. When it hits fully, you'll need us. Both of us. The bond will demand completion. And if I can't shift, if I'm still broken when you're not broken. Kale cupped her face. The spark flared between them. Say it. You're not broken. I'm not broken, she whispered. Good. He pressed his forehead to hers. Now try to sleep. We'll figure this out. Together. He left. Lyra lay back down, but sleep didn't come. Her body hummed with anticipation, with need. 3 to 4 days. Then everything would change. The council meeting was called the next morning. Lyra sat beside Miriam in the ancient chamber. 12 council members, all studying her with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. Kale and Kane sat at the head of the table. Their expressions were carefully neutral. Elder Corvus Ashenblade stood at the far end, old, bent with age, his robes traditional council gray, but his eyes were sharp, too sharp. Thank you for gathering, Corvus began. I've discovered something that requires immediate attention. What is it? Kane's voice was flat. Corvus unrolled an ancient scroll. The parchment was yellow, brittle, covered in flowing script. This is the prophecy of the Crimson Moon, he said, written 500 years ago by the oracle of the first pack. Murmurs around the table. The prophecy speaks of twin alphas who would rule in balance, and of an omega who would unite them. Corvus's gaze fell on Lyra, an omega marked by the goddess herself. Lyra's heart hammered. I don't understand. Show us your shoulder, the left one. Slowly, Lyra pulled down her dress sleeve. The scar was there. She'd had it since birth, a circular mark, raised. She'd always assumed it was a burn. Corvus approached, studied it. This isn't a scar, he said. It's a seal, placed by ancient magic to suppress your true nature. What true nature? Kale demanded. She's not just an omega. Corvus looked at the council. She's an omega prima, descended from the first moon goddess herself, the rarest of bloodlines. Shock rippled through the chamber. That's impossible, someone said. The seal proves it. Only prima bloodlines are marked this way, to protect them until they come of age. Corvus turned to Lyra. This is why you can't shift. Your wolf is locked behind divine magic. Lyra couldn't breathe. Prima, goddess-born. Can the seal be broken? Kane asked. Yes, but it requires powerful magic. A ritual performed during... Corvus hesitated. During her first heat, the intensity will shatter the seal naturally. So in 3 days, Kale said slowly, when her heat comes, well, she'll shift and become what she was always meant to be. Corvus smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. The Omega Prima, queen of twin thrones, mother of the next generation of Prima wolves. The council erupted in excited chatter. Lyra sat frozen. This couldn't be real. Her goddess descended. There's more, Corvus continued once the noise died down. The prophecy speaks of enemies, those who would seek to prevent the Prima's awakening. What enemies? Kane's hand went to his sword. Anyone who fears the power of twin kings united with a Prima mate. Corvus's expression turned grave. I suggest increased security. The Omega should be guarded at all times. Agreed, Kale said immediately. The meeting dissolved into logistics. Guard rotations, safe rooms, protocols. Lyra barely heard. Her mind spun. Prima, goddess-born, sealed. Miriam squeezed her hand. Breathe, child. I don't understand. Why would someone seal my wolf? Protection, likely. Prima Omegas are hunted, killed. Your parents probably did it to save your life. Parents, Lyra's mother had died giving birth. Her father had never spoken of her. Had he known the meeting ended? Kale and Kane immediately flanked Lyra. We need to talk, Kale said. Privately. They brought her to Kale's study. The fire crackled. Kane poured drinks. Whiskey for the twins, tea for Lyra. How are you feeling? Kane asked. Overwhelmed, confused, terrified. Don't be terrified. Kale sat beside her. This changes nothing about how we feel. It changes everything about what I am. You were always meant to be our queen, Kane said. Now we know why. Lyra sipped her tea. It was chamomile, calming. Corvus said enemies would come. Let them. Inez's smile was sharp. We've faced worse. There's something you should know, Kale said carefully, about Elder Corvus. What? He served on the council when your father was alive. They had disagreements about Omega rights, medical practices. Lyra frowned. My father never mentioned him. Your father tried to get Corvus removed from the council, accused him of corruption. It didn't work. Corvus had too much support. Kale's expression was troubled. A month later, your father died. The implication hung heavy. You think Corvus killed him? Lyra whispered. I think it's suspicious. But we could never prove anything. Kane set down his glass. We'll watch him. Closely. If he's planning something... A scream cut through the afternoon. All three of them bolted. They found chaos in the courtyard. Guards running, servants crying, and in the center, a body. One of the kitchen Omegas, stabbed. Blood pooling beneath her. Miriam was already there, checking for a pulse. She looked up, shook her head. Dead. Kale's face went cold. Who did this? We don't know, sire, a guard reported. She was found minutes ago. No witnesses. Kane crouched by the body, inhaled. Rogue scent, faint, but there. Rogues inside the citadel. That should have been impossible. The walls were too high, the guards too vigilant. Someone let them in, Kale said quietly. Someone is working with them. His eyes found Corvus in the crowd. The elder looked shocked, horrified. Too shocked, too perfectly horrified. Lyra's wolf stirred. Uneasy, something was very, very wrong. The next day was tense. Extra guards everywhere. No one allowed out alone. Lyra worked in the healing chambers but couldn't focus. The dead Omega's face haunted her. Young, innocent. Killed for what? A distraction. A warning. And through it all, Lyra felt watched. That evening, a guest arrived. Lyra was returning to her room when she heard voices in the great hall. Music, laughter, some kind of reception. She changed into a simple dress. Nothing fancy. She didn't own anything fancy. When she entered the hall, she saw why. The woman at the high table was perfection. Tall, elegant, hair like spun gold falling in perfect waves past her shoulders. Her dress was deep green silk that probably cost more than Lyra would see in 10 lifetimes. Emeralds at her throat, confidence in every movement. She sat between Kale and Kane, laughing at something, touching Kane's arm with casual familiarity. Lyra's stomach twisted. That's Lady Isolde Ravencrest, Miriam murmured beside her. The healer had appeared like a ghost from the Eastern Kingdom. She's beautiful. She's dangerous. Miriam's tone was flat. There was an understanding between their families, an almost betrothal to Kane. Something cold settled in Lyra's chest. Does he still care for her? No, Miriam's answer was immediate. But Isolde has never accepted that. Lyra watched Kane lean away from Isolde's touch. Watched Kale's expression go cold when she spoke to him. But still, they had history, shared experiences. She belonged in their world in a way Lyra never could. The evening dragged. Lyra sat with the healers, 3 tables away, close enough to see, too far to hear, close enough to feel every knife twist of jealousy. When dinner finally ended, Lyra fled to her room. The knock came an hour later. Kane stood there, still in his formal clothes, looking tired. Can I come in? She nodded. Stepped back. Kane entered, closed the door, leaned against it. Isolde showing up was unexpected, he said. It's fine. It's not. I can smell your distress from 3 rooms away. Lyra's cheeks heated. Right. Alpha senses. Kane crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands. The spark flared, but she'd gotten better at managing it. There is nothing between Isolde and me, he said clearly. There never was. An arrangement between families is not a bond. She's beautiful. So are you. She belongs in your world. You are my world. His thumb stroked her cheekbones. You, not her, not anyone else. You. Lyra's eyes burned. She blinked rapidly. Don't cry, Kane whispered. Please don't cry. I can't handle it when you cry. I'm not crying. Liar. She laughed. It came out wet. Maybe a little. He pulled her into his arms, held her close. She breathed in his scent, smoke and spice and safety. Why, we haven't claimed you yet, Kane said against her hair. Haven't completed the bond. But you're ours, Lyra. You've been ours since the moment we touched. Nothing will change that. What if my wolf never wakes? Then we love you anyway, bond complete or not. The words settled into her bones. True? Unshakable. Kane pulled back, looked at her seriously. Kael and I have been patient. We know this is overwhelming. But Lyra, our control isn't infinite. Heat flooded through her. What are you saying? I'm saying that your heat is coming. Soon. When it hits the bond, we'll demand completion. And if I'm not ready, then we'll keep you safe through it without claiming you fully. His expression was pained. It'll be agony for all three of us. But we'll do it if that's what you need. Lyra searched his face, saw honesty, saw desire tightly leashed, saw devotion that took her breath away. I don't know what I need, she admitted. That's okay. You have time to figure it out. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Gentle, chaste. Sleep well, little Omega. He left. Lyra stood there, heart racing, wolf stirring. Her heat was coming, and she still didn't know if she was ready. Morning came with cold rain. Lyra worked in the healing chambers, but Miriam sent her out afternoon. You need air. Sunshine when it breaks. Go walk the gardens. The Citadel gardens were beautiful even in autumn rain. Trees with leaves of gold and crimson, stone paths winding between beds of late-blooming flowers, fountains that caught the gray light. Lyra walked alone under an umbrella a servant had pressed into her hands, until she turned a corner and found Isolde waiting. The high-born woman stood beneath a covered arbor. Her dress today was deep blue. Her smile was poison wrapped in silk. Lady Lyra, what a pleasant surprise. It wasn't a surprise. This had been planned. Lyra straightened her spine. Lady Isolde, please join me out of the rain. Lyra stepped under the arbor, kept distance between them. Isolde studied her. I wanted to speak with you, woman to woman, about the twins. Lyra's jaw clenched. I don't think that's appropriate. Why not? We both care about their well-being. Isolde moved closer. I've known them for 15 years, since we were all children. I know their habits, their preferences, their needs. I'm aware you have history. History? Isolde laughed. It was musical. Perfect. Is that what Cain told you, that it's just history? He said there was an understanding, that it didn't work out. He's being kind. The truth is messier. Isolde's smile sharpened. Cain and I were lovers for 3 years. Kale and I had an understanding. When the time came, I would have chosen one and bonded, become queen. Each word was a blade, precise, cutting. Then why didn't you? Lyra asked quietly. Because they refused, said they were waiting for their true mate. Isolde stopped directly in front of Lyra. Imagine my shock when I heard they'd found her. An Omega, a powerful she-wolf who could stand beside them as an equal. She looked Lyra up and down, dismissive. Instead, they bring home you, a broken Omega who can't even shift, who was rejected by her own pack. Isolde's voice dropped. Tell me, Lyra, what could you possibly give them that I couldn't? The words hit every insecurity, every doubt, every fear. But Lyra had survived 23 years of Silver Moon's cruelty. She'd survived exile and frostbite and rogues. She'd survived. I don't know, Lyra said honestly, but they chose me anyway. Isolde's eyes flashed. For now. But when your heat comes and you can't shift, can't bond properly, can't give them the strong airs they need. She leaned in close. They'll realize their mistake, and I'll be waiting. Is that why you're here to wait? I'm here because the Eastern Kingdom values the alliance, and because I know what's best for the twins, even if they've temporarily forgotten. They're not children. They can make their own choices. Can they? Or are they blinded by the idea of a mate bond that may never fully form? Isolde smiled, cold, calculating. You're a novelty, Lyra. Sweet, wounded. It appeals to their protective instincts, but novelty fades. And when it does, they'll need a real queen. She swept past, paused at the arbor entrance. Enjoy it while it lasts, little Omega. Then she was gone. Lyra stood there, shaking, not from cold, from rage and hurt and the terrible whisper that maybe Isolde was right. She's wrong. Lyra spun. Kale emerged from behind a hedge. How much had he heard she's wrong, he repeated. He crossed to Lyra, took her hands. And cruel, I'm sorry you had to hear that. Did you love her? No, I respected her, liked her as a friend. But love, Kale shook his head. I didn't know what love was until I touched you in that cave. I can't shift. I might never. I don't care. You need heirs. We need you. Kale pulled her closer. Lyra, listen to me. Truly listen. You are not a novelty. You're not temporary. You're our mate, our future, our everything. Tears spilled over. She couldn't stop them. Kale wiped them away with his thumbs. Gentle, reverent. Don't let her poison you, he whispered. Don't let anyone make you doubt your worth. It's hard when she's right about so much. She's not. She's scared, desperate, because she knows she's already lost. Lyra looked up at him, at those ice-blue eyes that saw her, really saw her. Kale, I want to kiss you, he interrupted. I've wanted to since the moment I saw you. Her breath caught. Then why haven't you? Because once I start, I won't want to stop. And you deserve courting. Proper courting. Not an alpha who can't control himself. What if I want an alpha who can't control himself? Kale's eyes darkened. His grip on her hands tightened. Don't say that unless you mean it. I mean it. He leaned in, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. Lyra tilted her face up, rose on her toes, closed the distance. Their lips met. Lightning, thunder, wildfire. The kiss was gentle at first. Testing, learning. Then Kale groaned, pulled her flush against him and deepened it. Lyra's wolf surged, not shifting, but present, awake, singing. Kale's arms wrapped around her waist. Lyra's hands fisted in his shirt. The world narrowed to this, to him, to the way he tasted like winter and want. My kings. A voice shattered the moment. Emergency council meeting. They broke apart, both breathing hard. A messenger stood at the garden entrance. Young, looking anywhere but at them. Kale's jaw clenched. Now, sire, Elder Corvus says it's urgent. Kale looked at Lyra. Regret and hunger warred in his expression. I have to go. I know. This isn't finished. I know that too. He kissed her again. Lyra stood in the garden, touched her lips. They still tingled. She didn't notice Isolde watching from a window above. Didn't see the woman's expression twist with rage. Didn't know that at that very moment Elder Corvus was setting his plan in motion. That night, Lyra's scent changed. Miriam examined her in the healing chambers, sniffed, frowned. Your heat, the older woman said. It's tonight. Panic clawed at Lyra's throat. I thought I had another day, maybe two. The bond accelerated it, and Miriam hesitated. The kiss with King Kale, that triggered the final shift. What do? You go to them, let them take you to the heat suite, let them take care of you. Miriam, the attacks, the dead Omega. What if? Stop. The healer gripped her shoulders. You leaving would change nothing. The attacks aren't about you, they're about destabilizing the kingdom. But Isolde said, Isolde is a liar. Miriam's eyes blazed. Listen to me. You stay. You trust your mates. You survive. Lyra wanted to believe her, but the doubt had taken root. She returned to her room, felt the first real wave hit. Heat, fire across her skin, her wolf rising, demanding. She needed them, both of them. But fear whispered, what if Isolde was right? What if she brought nothing but danger? Lyra made a decision she would regret. She packed a small bag, took bread and dried meat from the kitchens, and just after midnight, she headed for the stables. She'd almost reached the gate when arms wrapped around her from behind. Where are you going? Kane's voice was deadly soft. Lyra froze. Answer me. Away, before someone else dies because of me. Kane spun her around, his eyes blazed gold. Who told you that leaving would stop the attacks? Isolde said Isolde's a liar. Kale appeared from the shadows. His expression was thunderous. She's been feeding you poison, and you believed her. People are dying. People die in conflicts. This isn't your fault. Kane pulled her closer. Did you really think we'd just let you go? You thought wrong. Kale's voice was cold. You're ours. We don't let what's ours walk away. The possessiveness should have angered her. Instead, her wolf purred. I'm trying to protect you, Lyra whispered. We protect you, not the other way around. Kane's grip gentled. Lyra, your heat is starting. I can smell it, feel it. You're not thinking clearly. Mace, was that true? Was the approaching heat clouding her judgment? Come back to the Citadel, Kale said. His voice softened. Please, let us keep you safe. Lyra looked between them, saw fear beneath the anger, fear of losing her. Okay, she breathed. Okay. They escorted her back, not to her room, to the heat suite at the top of the northern tower. It was beautiful. Massive bed, furs and silks, fireplace, windows overlooking mountains. One of us will be here at all times, Kane said. No more being alone. I'm sorry, Lyra said. Don't be sorry, be smart. Kale tilted her chin up. Trust us. Can you do that? I'll try. Kane stayed with her that night, sat in a chair while she tried to sleep. Every time she woke from a nightmare, he was there. Solid, safe. When morning came, her scent had changed again. Sweeter, richer. The heat was here. Miriam examined her. Hours now, maybe less. The twins prepared, locked down the suite, gathered supplies. Evening fell. Lyra felt the wave hit, stronger, undeniable. It's starting, she gasped. Kale and Kane were at her side instantly. We're here, Kane murmured. We've got you. They started to guide her toward the bed. That's when the alarm bells rang. Guards shouting, steel clashing, screams. What? Kale started. The door burst open. Corvus stood there. Two guards flanked him. Their eyes were blank, compelled. Forgive me, Corvus said, but the Prima cannot be allowed to awaken. He threw something. A vial. It shattered. Green smoke exploded. Lyra inhaled, coughed. The world tilted. She heard Kane roar, heard Kael's snarl, heard fighting. Then darkness took her. Lyra woke to cold, and darkness, and the smell of damp stone. She was bound, hands tied behind her back, ankles chained, her head pounded from whatever Corvus had used. Awake! His voice echoed from somewhere beyond her cell. Good. Her eyes adjusted slowly. Underground, stone walls, iron bars. A single torch flickering in the corridor beyond. Corvus stood outside her cell, old, bent, but his eyes gleamed with malice. Why? Lyra managed. Her throat was raw. Because you're too dangerous. A Prima Omega bonded to twin kings. The power that would give them is unacceptable. You killed my father. Yes, he discovered my plans, tried to stop me, so I ensured his silence. Corvus smiled. It was chilling. Just as I'll ensure yours. The twins will find me. They're fighting rogues I paid to attack the Citadel. By the time they realize you're gone, he shrugged. It'll be too late. Lyra's heat built despite the fear, a wave of fire across her skin. She gasped. Ah, right on schedule. Corvus unlocked the cell, entered. Your heat will kill you without an alpha. Painful. Fitting. You won't win, Lyra spat. I already have. He pulled a knife, pressed it to her throat. Lyra's wolf surged, not to shift, but to survive. The seal on her shoulder burned, actually burned. Corvus stumbled back. What power building, breaking free. The seal didn't just crack. It shattered. Golden light exploded outward. Pure, blinding. The kind of radiance that came from the moon goddess herself. The chains binding Lyra disintegrated, turned to dust. She stood. Her legs shook but held. Heat coursed through her veins like liquid fire. But this wasn't mindless. This was power. Ancient, primal. Awake. Her wolf rose. Not the broken sleeping thing. This was magnificent. The transformation hit like a tidal wave. Bones cracked. Reformed. White fur sprouted. Pure as new snow. And she was bigger than any Omega should be. Almost alpha-sized. Because she wasn't just an Omega. She was Prima. Lyra's wolf threw back her head and howled. The sound shook the underground chamber. And 5 miles away, 2 Alpha Kings froze mid-battle. Kale cut through the last rogue. His sword dripped crimson. Around him, the courtyard was carnage. But none of it mattered. His mate bond had exploded into brilliant burning life. Kane, he breathed. His brother stood 20 feet away, frozen. She shifted, Kane said, and she's in trouble. They moved as one, shifted to wolves, Kale pure white, Kane silver gold. They followed the bond, that golden thread blazing like the sun, through corridors, down to forgotten dungeons. The scene below made Kael's blood freeze and boil. Corvus lay crumpled, 2 guards dead, necks broken. And in the center stood a white wolf, massive, beautiful, eyes pure gold. Lyra. She turned. The mate bond sang. Both twins dropped to their knees. The Prima power radiating from her demanded it. Lyra, Kane whispered. She shifted back, stood before them. Torn clothes, wild hair, golden eyes. I killed them, she said calmly. They tried to stop me. I defended myself. No shame, no fear, just fact. Kale stood slowly. Are you hurt? No, the heat is building, but I'm managing. Lyra, Kane moved closer. You shifted. Your wolf is, I know what I am. She looked between them. I remember everything. The seal locked my memories too. I know who my mother was. Why Corvus killed my father. Tell us later, Kale said. Right now I need you both. Her breath hitched. The heat is getting worse, and my wolf is demanding her mates. The raw honesty shattered their control. Kane reached at her first. Are you sure? I've never been more sure. He kissed her, hard, claiming. When he pulled back, Kale was there, turned her to face him. Once we claim you, Kale said quietly, there's no going back. I'm already yours. She pulled his head down. Now make it official. His kiss was slower, deeper. When they broke apart, all three were breathing hard. Not here, Kane said. Not where he tried to kill you. The heat's sweet, Cale agreed. They brought Corvus up, still unconscious. Guards took him to the real prison. Then they brought Lyra to the suite, beautiful, private, safe, everything an Omega in heat needed, including 2 Alpha Kings. What followed was slow, reverent, overwhelming. They undressed her carefully, kissed every inch of skin, whispered promises, laid her on soft furs. Kane kissed her while Cale explored, learning her, then switched. Cale's mouth while Kane's hands drove her wild. Please, she finally gasped. We know. Kane went first, slow, gentle. You're so beautiful, he breathed. The claiming was intense but tender. When the bond mark appeared on her neck glowing gold, Kane groaned. Then Kyle. His claiming was different. More intense, more demanding. When his mark appeared opposite Kane's, Lyra cried out. The mate bond completed. Both marks blazed with golden light, brighter than any bond in history. Divine, destiny, forever. 7 days passed. Days 1 and 2 were pure instinct. Wolves taking over, learning, claiming. Day 3, Lyra discovered her Omega voice. Come here, she said. Both twins froze, walked to the bed without thought. Did I just command us? Yes. Cale looked stunned. That shouldn't be possible. Unless you're bonded, Kane finished. We're connected. Your voice carries weight. It's balance, Cale said. You have the voice. We have the strength. Together we're equals. Equals. The words settled into her chest. Warm, true. Days 4 and 5, they taught her to control her powers, shifting at will. Easy now. Healing touch. When Kane cut his hand, Lyra healed it with golden light, empathic sensing. She felt their emotions through the bond. Day 6, they talked. Lyra told them everything. Her mother had been prima, hunted, sealed baby Lyra with a pack healer. That healer became her father. By choice. He'd raised her, loved her, died protecting the secret. Corvus found out, Lyra said. Killed him. Watched me for 23 years. When we found you, he panicked, Cale concluded. He's going to pay, Kane said. He already has. Lyra touched her marks. He lost. We won. No, both twins said. Justice must be served. Day 7, the heat broke. Lyra woke to sunlight, her body pleasantly sore, thoroughly claimed, and she could smell something new in her own scent. Pregnant. Twin boys. When the twins woke, they knew immediately. You're pregnant, Kane breathed. Twins, Lyra confirmed. Cale pulled her close. Our family. Our future, Kane added. They rested that day, prepared to face the world. Tomorrow coronation, and traitors to punish. 3 days later, the Great Hall was packed. 500 wolves, all gathered to witness history. The coronation of Queen Lyra Stormborn. Lyra stood in white silk, the twin wolf crest on the bodice, a train flowing behind her. You look like a goddess, Miriam said. I'm nervous. Your father would be proud. The words made Lyra's throat tight. Kane entered, stared. Breathtaking. Cale appeared, same expression. The hall is ready. Are you Yes. They walked together, down corridors, wolves bowing, the great hall doors open. Silence. Lyra walked the aisle, saw friendly faces, warriors, healers, servants. At the far end, prisoners. Thorn Blackmaw, Luna Seraphine, in chains, stripped of finery. I sold a raven crest, also bound. Corvus Ashenblade, in a cage. The twin thrones sat side by side. Between them a third, the queen's throne. Lyra sat. It fit perfectly. A council member stepped forward. We are gathered to witness the coronation of Queen Lyra Stormborn, Omega Prima, mate to our twin kings. He held a crown, white gold, diamonds, moonstones. Lyra Ashwood, who became Lyra Stormborn, do you swear to serve these kingdoms with honor, to protect the weak, to uphold justice? I do. Then by ancient law and divine right I crown you. He placed the crown, Queen Lyra Stormborn, Prima of the Twin Realms, long may she reign. Long may she reign, 500 voices. Cheering. Lyra stood. The crown was heavy, but she wore it well. Cale took her left hand, Kane her right. Your queen, Cale announced. Our mate, Kane added. Our equal, they said together. The crowd roared. Then Cale's expression went cold. Before we celebrate, justice must be served. Bring forward Alpha Thorn Blackmaw and Luna Seraphine. Guards dragged them forward, forced them to kneel. Thorn looked up, saw Lyra crowned, the marks glowing. His face went white. You rejected an Omega Prima, Kale said. Cast her into the Deadlands. Sentenced her to death. I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse, Kane said. You deserve death. Both paled, but Lyra stood. No. All eyes turned. Death is too easy. I propose exile. Let them survive the Deadlands as I had to. Gasps. Seraphine cried, please, mercy. Mercy, Lyra's laugh was sharp. You showed me none. Why should I? Silence. Then, but I am not you. You have one chance, survive 1 year. If you live, petition for clemency, but you'll never hold rank again. Never rule, never hurt another Omega. Kale smiled. So be it. Take them to the border. Release them with nothing. They were dragged away screaming. Bring forward Isolde Ravencrest. She was dragged forward, stared at Lyra with hatred. You poisoned our mate, Kane said. She's not worthy. Careful, Kale warned. You address your queen. She'll never be my queen. Then you'll never be welcome. Kane gestured. Same sentence, exile, 1 year. She was dragged away. Finally, Corvus. He was pulled from the cage, forced to kneel. He looked up. No fear, just calculation. You won, he said flatly. You killed my father. Yes. The casual admission shocked the hall. Why, because he was going to reveal what you were. I couldn't allow that. Corvus smiled. I've spent my life preventing Prima bloodlines from gaining power. 3 generations I've hunted. Horror rippled through the crowd. You've confessed to multiple murders, Kane said. The sentence is death. Make it quick. You should be afraid, Lyra said softly. Your death won't be quick. It will be witnessed, remembered. A warning. Fear finally flickered. Take him to the execution grounds, Kale ordered. At dawn, he faces the headsman. As he was dragged away, the hall erupted. Justice served. Lyra sat back, exhausted, triumphant. You were magnificent, Kale said. Our perfect queen, Kane agreed. The celebration lasted into the night. But the best part came when Silver Moon Pack members approached. Not Thorn's Circle. Regular wolves, Omegas, Betas. They knelt. Your Majesty, we came to beg forgiveness. We stood silent. We're ashamed. Lyra studied them, saw genuine remorse. Stand. They stood. You were trapped in a system that punished kindness. I understand. I forgive you. She paused. But I won't forget. Let my story be a lesson. Speak up for the vulnerable. Protect the weak. Choose courage over comfort. Yes, Your Majesty. Thank you. As they left, Lyra felt closure. She'd been rejected, but risen anyway. 6 months passed. Winter turned to spring. The kingdoms prospered. United under 3 crowns. Lyra's pregnancy progressed. Her belly swelled. Too fast, Miriam warned. Prima pregnancies are accelerated. How soon? Within the week. The boys came 3 days later. Fast. Intense. But safe. Kael held her hand through every contraction. Kane paced. The first baby emerged. A boy, white fur, ice blue eyes like Kael's. Ashton. Lyra gasped. Minutes later, the second, golden fur, hazel gold eyes like Kane's. Steel, Kael murmured. Both perfect. Healthy, strong. Miriam examined them. They have alpha markers, but also omega empathy. They're balanced. Is that possible? With Prima bloodlines, apparently yes. Lyra held her boys, felt their power, their bond. They're extraordinary. Like their mother, Kael said. That evening they brought them to the balcony. 500 wolves gathered below, looked up, cheered. Their future kings. Lyra stood between Kael and Kane, her mates, her equals, her forever. She looked out over the kingdoms, saw prosperity, peace, possibility. I was rejected by 1 pack, she said softly, to be claimed by 2 kings. You were cast out, Kael added, so you could rise higher than anyone imagined. You were called broken, Kane finished, when you were really becoming. Lyra smiled, looked at her sons. Their eyes flashed gold. Future kings, future mates to some lucky Omega. The cycle would continue, the bloodline would thrive. This isn't an ending, Lyra said. No, Kael agreed, it's a beginning. Below the kingdom celebrated. Above the moon goddess smiled. Lyra Stormborn held her crown steady. She'd been nothing. Nobody. Worthless. Now she was everything. Queen, mate, mother, prima. She was exactly where she belonged. The rejected Omega had become the most powerful queen in history, and every wolf in the realm would remember her story, not as a warning, but as a promise. That the broken can become whole, the weak can become strong, the rejected can become queens. All they need is courage, and the right wolves to see their worth. Lyra had found both, and she would never let either go. The moon goddess watched over them all, smiled, and whispered a blessing into the night. Well done, my children. Well done.